JP Morgan just made an interesting announcement. Well, it's really more of kind of like a report and analysis about Bitcoin, gold, and MicroStrategy. They highlighted that MSTR or strategy is on track to buy $30 billion of Bitcoin this year, more than they bought in each of the past 2 years. But what's really interesting is that they highlight that the money pouring out of the gold ETFs is the signal to explain this structural shift. This really begs the question, what is JP Morgan seeing behind closed doors? And for all of us here, how much of gold's 32.8, so $33 trillion market cap will flow into Bitcoin? We have been hearing for years at this point, that we will one day see the great rotation, the great gold revaluation, money flowing from gold into Bitcoin. And we have noticed that in times of Bitcoin and gold moving, that they kind of move in inverse. Gold will pump, Bitcoin might be a little sluggish. And then once gold has its blow off top, that money rotates into Bitcoin. Well, for the last couple of weeks and months, we've all been wondering, obviously, as I keep mentioning, what we saw in 2025 in regards to gold and how much capital actually flowed into gold was very interesting. In my opinion, does poke a lot of holes in the idea that, oh, Bitcoin's such a big market cap, now it's not going to be able to move as high and as far as we all believe. Well, it seems as if we are starting to see that investors are potentially not as interested in gold as they are in Bitcoin. And if that ramps up, what are the implications of this, right? So let me break down this report. So it was recorded, or rather reported by The Block here. There's actually two stories from The Block coming from the same analysis, but I want to start with the big story here, which is this idea of basically JP Morgan saying, and here's the headline, Bitcoin is gaining over gold as debasement trade after Iran conflict, which is what we've been telling you guys. Literally, Bitcoin has been the best performing thing in everyone's portfolio since the start of the war in February, or the end of February. Now, when this initially happened, I've been mentioning this on the show of how interesting it was to me to watch Bitcoin react very positively in the face of this Operation Epic Fury or war or mission, whatever they're calling it these days. And the fact that Bitcoin didn't crash when we started another war, a war of choice in the Middle East, I thought that was a huge signal. And you guys in the chat were like making fun of me. They're like, oh, you know, Bitcoin's acting resilient right now. It's still at 60K. You know, it can't break 70. I'm like, yeah. But the point is, it didn't drop. And remember, I've said it a couple of weeks ago. I forget on what show exactly. And on a side note, dude, 1,500 episodes today. Our 1,500 show. It's crazy to me. But anyway, I got sidetracked. We brought up the idea on the show that what if the theory or our expectation of what Bitcoin decoupling from other markets was wrong? What if we didn't fully realize what that would look like? What if what we're seeing right now is Bitcoin decoupling from other markets? While everything seems to be going down, well, recently, the stock market's absolutely going huge. It's breaking all-time highs, basically. But Bitcoin should, in theory, either drop first and then recover harder and faster. Wait, pause. But what if Bitcoin decoupling is the idea that Bitcoin doesn't drop as hard as everything? Again, pause. Are we seeing this happen right now? Are we really seeing investors, I wouldn't say lose faith in gold, but start to look at Bitcoin as something that they actually need to add to their portfolio? Again, I've been bringing you guys the different reports from the institutions essentially saying, look, if you just add 3% of Bitcoin into your portfolio, it's going to outperform the standard 60-40 portfolio. It's going to really, the ROI of just adding a little bit of Bitcoin fundamentally shifts how your portfolio is going to act. Now, if more people start waking up to the idea that I need to add more Bitcoin versus gold, stocks, treasuries, then the fundamental thesis, the fundamental calculation starts to shift in investors' minds. That's what I've been telling you guys on the show. Well, it seems like JP Morgan, the analyst over at JP Morgan, are starting to say something very similar. So let's break down this report real quick for you guys, because there is some interesting stuff here. And here's the quick takeaways. Bitcoin ETFs have seen inflows for a third straight month, while gold ETFs are still struggling to recover outflows after the Iran conflict. This and other market indicators suggest investors are increasingly choosing Bitcoin over gold as a debasement trade. I repeat, it suggests that investors are increasingly choosing Bitcoin over gold in the debasement trade. We are currently, every single one of us, in a debasement trade. If you have capital, if you're looking at markets right now, if you're looking to preserve your wealth, then you are currently in the debasement trade. We're all watching what's going on with fiat currencies, with the geopolitical mess in the Middle East. And everyone is looking at how do I position myself so I don't lose my wealth. It's a fundamental shift. Yeah, I know a lot of us Bitcoiners have, this put all our eggs in one basket view where we're just trying to accumulate wealth. But once you get to the wealth accumulation, once you have a little nest egg, the calculations change and you're looking at this like, okay, how do I preserve my wealth? What is the fastest race in the horse? It looks like outside of just the Bitcoin space. Wait, what did I say? Fastest horse in the race. I do that constantly. Well, it looks like investors are starting to, at the very least, wake up to the Bitcoin thesis that we've been saying for a long time. So again, sorry for the rambling. Let me break this down a little more. So again, Bitcoin is gaining over gold as a debasement trade after the Iran conflict, as Bitcoin ETFs continue to attract inflows while gold ETFs struggle to recover outflows. Bitcoin ETFs, again, have seen inflows for 3 straight months. And the JP Morgan analyst, again, forgive me, Nicholas or Nicolaus, I can't even say his first name, said in a report that gold ETFs, meanwhile, are struggling to recover the outflows they saw in March when the Iran conflict erupted. This is the key takeaway. This suggests retail investors are choosing Bitcoin over gold as a debasement trade since the start of the conflict, which, quote, the debasement trade rotates from gold to Bitcoin. The debasement trade refers to investors, of course, buying assets like gold or Bitcoin to protect against weakening fiat currencies, especially during geopolitical tensions or inflation concerns. Is this not the Bitcoin thesis that we as Bitcoiners have been saying for over a decade? That at a certain point, the average investor is going to wake up to the fact that Bitcoin is the best hard money trade in the game. And further, best performing asset since its inception. The outsized returns of adding Bitcoin to your portfolio cannot be ignored after a certain point. Once everyone wakes up to the fact that fiat dollars are melting ice cubes in your hand, you might want to get some Bitcoin, things will start to accelerate. Well, it looks like we are seeing the beginning of that because of gold ETF flows. They're struggling right now. Bitcoin ETF flows are going extremely hard. And that does add to the same idea that I'm pretty sure I brought it up yesterday, at least maybe in passing. Even though we've been in a, quote, crypto winter the last couple of months, the institutional ETF holder is not being scared away. That was one of the theories that a lot of Bitcoiners had. It's like, okay, hey, the institutions are coming, the institutions are here, but they're not going to be diamond-handed hodlers of last resort. Well, the data is showing us something different. That the investor, or, you guys know I always kind of make fun of the boomers out there. Not the Bitcoin boomers, but, I do have the millennial rage against the boomers, and I'm trying to work on that. But what we've seen from the ETF investor in Bitcoin is the shakeout here has not scared them. In fact, they have been adding to their portfolio positions. maybe this idea is catching on. Maybe this is the beginning of it. And of course, as this compounds, as this accelerates, they're going to continue to buy, and not only continue to buy, but they're going to expand their portfolio allocations to Bitcoin. Anyways, moving further, I did mention strategy was added in here. So we go, Bitcoin buying has not been limited to retail investors through ETFs. JP Morgan's positioning proxies based on CME Bitcoin futures and offshore perpetual futures have also been making new highs, suggesting institutional investors have increased exposure as well. So it's not just me looking at the data and making this up. We have some of the best market analysts out there saying the same thing, looking at the same stuff and being like, this is what it's suggesting. So, you know, maybe I may be just a YouTuber, but at least our analysis is directionally correct. And further, not even just directionally correct, it's on the mark. Anyways, the analyst also said momentum signals for Bitcoin and gold used as proxies for positioning by momentum traders, such as commodity trading advisors, have rebounded for Bitcoin since the start of the Iran conflict. And this is where it does get very interesting. And it goes, investors' Bitcoin buying is also happening indirectly through Michael Saylor's strategy, whose ownership is almost equally split between retail and institutional investor. Strategy remains the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin globally and has been accumulating Bitcoin at a faster pace this year. And this is where you get the news that they are projecting that Saylor or Strategy or the retail and institutional investors in Strategy might accumulate more Bitcoin through Strategy than they have in the past 2 years. So let me pop over to that article where they break it down. This one's titled, JP Morgan says Strategy's Bitcoin buying could reach 30 billion this year at current price. The big caveat is obviously at current price. So here's the chart that they're showing. You can see MicroStrategy's Bitcoin's purchases each year. You can see 2024 around 22 billion. Again in 2025, roughly around 22 billion as well. And in the first quarter, bought about what, 7 billion? Q2, obviously not over. They're estimating it'll get up to maybe 10 billion. And then they're going to see that this huge, estimate of what's going to happen towards the year end is going to blow out every year of Strategy's buying. It's essentially saying that Strategy's accumulation is going to accelerate. And have I not been saying that for a minute? That look, what is super interesting, what is actually a phenomenon happening right now, is that one single buyer in the market is not only basically buying up all the daily mined Bitcoin for weeks in advance, but that demand is also accelerating into that product, which is fundamentally different than we've seen in the past. Saylor himself is buying, well, obviously it's not himself, his company. One entity, Strategy, is buying more Bitcoin than everyone out there, and further accelerating the amount of Bitcoin buying that he's done in the past 2 years. And you don't think that that's going to fundamentally change what's going on when all the dynamics around Bitcoin, based on the institutions in Wall Street's coming in, based on the institutional investor and maybe the more savvy retail investor, is starting to look at Bitcoin as the tool to mitigate the debasement trade effects. As I've been saying for a long time, all it really takes, actually, I'm not the only one. Everyone's been saying this. All it really takes is one investor with very high conviction to fundamentally shift what the Bitcoin price is going to do, where we are going this year, next year, the next few years. And it seems like that one investor obviously has been Saylor for a while. Now, if it's accelerating even more, it could get very interesting here. I've been saying for the last couple of days, well, actually maybe weeks, speculating that it seems like Saylor may have single-handedly saved us from the 40K gulags. And now even JP Morgan analysts are out there is like, look, he might not only be saving us, but he's also opening up these products and broadening the market of capital that's going to flow into Bitcoin. It's very, very interesting just to watch Saylor alone. And obviously in the face of this week, you know, Saylor has been getting a lot of heat because of the kind of narrative shift from never sell your Bitcoin to, you know, buy more Bitcoin than you sell. Doesn't sound as good. But in the context of how much Bitcoin he's going to buy, you know, taking a little bit off the top really doesn't affect the bottom line here. But again, the main idea here is that Bitcoin is picking up in the debasement trade perspective conversation. If we see more capital flow out of gold, if the gold ETFs continue to struggle and that capital flows into Bitcoin, then the great revaluation, the great rotation that Bitcoiners have been talking about, obviously it doesn't happen all at once. It builds, it compounds on itself. But it seems like the Wall Street analysts are starting to catch on to this idea. They're starting to say, hey, look, the data is showing us people are losing faith in gold and they want an alternative, and that alternative might be Bitcoin. Now, before I did the show and before I pass it over to you, Nico, I was having this thought experiment. I was talking with Luke for a little bit, and I'm like, you know, in context of this article, just to do a thought experiment, what would a world look like if Bitcoin overtook gold's market cap, $30 trillion. And then gold basically revalued down towards just the utility use of gold. And I was using the market cap of silver, which is roughly, again, rounding up around $5 trillion. That would be maybe gold is, I don't know, lower end, maybe 7 trillion, maybe higher end 10 trillion. I don't know what the utility market cap of gold would be. But if gold lost 20 trillion because people aren't using it anymore as a monetary value,
I think
I'm just saying that's a crazy world to imagine.
Look, first of all, great takes on everything. Second of all, look, if and when Bitcoin reaches the current market cap of gold, that'd be $1.7 million per coin. That's the base thesis of Bitcoin, right? I think we got disconnected for a little bit. There we go. I think we're back.
We're having it's acting up on me today.
That's the base case of Bitcoin. The base case of Bitcoin is, can Bitcoin overtake the market cap of gold? But that's just the base case. That's the base case. I think that if Bitcoin is below that, I wouldn't call Bitcoin, I wouldn't go as far as calling Bitcoin a failure, but I think it would definitely underperform to a lot of people's expectations. Now, if Bitcoin reaches that market cap of gold, that would be $1.7 million per Bitcoin. Let me say that again. $1.7 million per coin. Now, going back to Opti's points in the beginning, yes, this cycle looks like I hate to say it, this time is different.
Now we're new.
Every single time that happens, bad things happen. But
price just crashed.
But what I'm going to continue to say, what I've been saying, for the last couple weeks now, really since we did this recovery from 60K to the 80K region, if we channel in these levels for the next 3 to 4 months, the sky is the effing limit. Because that tells me that we most likely bottomed out. And again, what is the thesis here? What is the case here as to why that could be the case? Well, this cycle is different in regards to, we never had a euphoric blow off top. So if you never had a euphoric blow off top, does that mean you're going to have an 80%, 70% correction? Those 80 to 70% corrections come from retail selling and retail panicking out. You never had that influx. You had that influx maybe in the treasury companies, but you really never had that influx in the in spot Bitcoin price. So if you never had that euphoric top, are you going to have this massacre of a Bitcoin crash? That's a thought that I want to plant in your guys' minds. We don't know. We're going to find out over the summer. the famous meme, sell in May and then go away, we're going to find out in May, June, and July if Bitcoin is able to hold these levels. Is Bitcoin able to hold the 80 and 60K levels? If Bitcoin is able to do that, then again, I think we hit bottom. And if we hit bottom, where else is there to go from the bottom to what? To going up. So that's where I'm standing there. But yeah, looping all of this in, Opti, I remember one of the things that Michael Saylor said in a very famous spaces that he recorded many years ago. I think this was back in 2022. He said that there was 3 things that needed to happen in order for Bitcoin to hit $5 million per coin. He said it was the approval of the spot Bitcoin ETF that happened in January of 2024. Second thing was the change in the FASB accounting rules. That happened as well. And the third thing that is happening this year was the ability for banks to start to custody Bitcoin. And ladies and gentlemen, that is happening as well. So this bear market, which again, bear markets are for building, what you're seeing is the institutional adoption of Bitcoin in full force. And it's extremely exciting times ahead. I can't emphasize that enough. So let's see what happens in the next 3 months. Let's see if the bears are right, or let's see if the bulls are right. I gotta say, I'm kind of in the middle. I went from a full bear,
wow, fence sitting,
full bear type of scenario to now I'm feeling definitely a lot more bullish than I was.
It's over.
I was feeling, a couple weeks ago, a month ago, when we were really in the gulags in that 60K region. So let's see if we can go up from here. Let's see what happens. I still think that there could be a capitulation event. There could be a bottoming out event. But let's see. The jury is out, ladies and gentlemen.
Coiled spring event.
The jury is out. And I kind of want to, Opti, if you can set this up while I keep talking. Let's release a poll to ask the audience what they think.
Oh, it's over.
Let's get a sense of what the crowd thinks. What's the
poll?
Thinks.
What's the poll?
Do you think Bitcoin has bottomed out yet? Also, shout out to the Rumble audience coming in strong, like always. Shout out to the YouTube audience, of course. Shout out to the Primal audience, the Nostr audience, and of course, shout out to the X audience as well. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. We got a very special we have a very special show for you guys today. We have the one and only Frank Holmes, aka Bulldog Holmes, joining us on the show later today. Which is going to be fantastic. Frank Holmes is the executive chairman of HIVE Digital Technologies. So really looking forward to that. And of course, we got some updates for you guys regarding the Clarity Act. Ladies and gentlemen, the poly market odds have it at a 76% chance of passing. We played you guys videos earlier on in the week of Democratic senators saying we must support the Clarity Act. And I told you guys how important that was because the Republicans only hold 53 Senate seats. The Clarity Act needs at least 60 votes in the Senate, meaning there needs to be bipartisan support of the bill, and it looks like it's making progress. It looks like this bill might get passed by Trump's deadline, which the White House set, which was July 4th, which again would be very symbolic. That would be the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. This is a country that was founded on the ideas of freedom, right? So how symbolic would that be? First pro-Bitcoin president, almost assassinated 3 times, passing the first real, I can't just say Bitcoin, but first real pro-Bitcoin / crypto bill in the U.S., the legislative process. So that is incredibly exciting. We'll stay on top of all of that, ladies and gentlemen. But anyways, guys, it's going to be a great show. We have tons to talk about today. Like I said, let's start the show. We're going to be right back in just a bit. Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. Everybody, you want to store your seed phrase properly, and you don't want to write it down on paper. Paper is fragile. You want to stamp it into titanium. The StampSeed kit has everything you need. Go to stampseed.com. Again, stampseed.com today. Use promo code SIMPLY. You get 15% off anything on the store. Pure titanium, some ASMR. Sounds really good. Don't write down your seed words on paper. Can you imagine that conversation, when you're 80 years old and your grandchildren are looking at you to, they're expecting that Bitcoin inheritance and you're like, I lost it because I wrote down my seed words on paper. That's bad. That's really bad. At the time of recording, Bitcoin price is $79,800, sats per dollar, 1,253, block height, 948,487, realized monetary inflation, 0.83%, market cap, 1.6 trillion, Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 5.32%, percentage issued, 95.36%, decline from all-time high, negative 36.7%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting the party started. If you're buying Bitcoin right now, you're getting it at a 36%. Again, 36% discount, which is a pretty big discount. Anyways, update on the Clarity Act, ladies and gentlemen. It's now at a 69% chance of passing into law in 2026. There's $636,000 worth of volume, ladies and gentlemen. $636,000. That's how much money is on the line. People are placing bets about whether this is going to get passed into law. It seems like there's real momentum. Again, you had a Democratic senator go on video and say, hey, listen, I like this thing. And that would be absolutely massive for the industry. So let's see if the Clarity Act gets signed into law. It seems like the betting odds markets are, it was higher than yesterday. So things are moving along. I do have a post from the Bitcoin Senator Cynthia Lummis. The American people have made it clear America should lead the way on digital assets. Let's secure our financial future for generations to come. Let's get clarity done now. And she, again, is showing I think this is a Harris poll. There is bipartisan support for Clarity Act. And again, support across party lines. 55% of Democrat voters, better said, support it. 58% of Republican voters support it. The rest are neutral, and only 12% of Democrat voters oppose it. Only 12% of Republican voters oppose it, and only 10% of independents oppose it. The only part where the independents, again, are not in line with the Democrats or the GOP are only 42% of independent voters support the Clarity Act. And my commentary on this is I don't think a lot of people even know what the Clarity Act is. I don't think a lot of people know and fully appreciate what Bitcoin is and what Bitcoin could do for the United States economy, for what Bitcoin could do for the world, right? So again, the country was founded as a republic, so you'd have a representative that was supposed to represent your interest in DC. They're the ones that are supposed to be taking all of this into consideration. But it seems like there is momentum on the Clarity Act passing in 2026. And again, this would be extremely bullish. I think we would have a price jump just by this passing. We've gotten to the point where back in 2016, 2017, when me and Opti started doing this, it would, like, any type of news would pump the price like 50%. We've gotten to such a big market cap that the only way the price is going to pump is if you have substantial news. And what is that type of substantial news? It would be the United States government announcing something about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. That would be A. B would be something like the Clarity Act passing, because again, it's in the name. This would create a lot of regulatory clarity for a lot of businesses, especially big businesses in the United States, regarding digital assets. This is what would take it across the finish line, right? So again, I think this would definitely be very bullish from a price action perspective. I think the second this gets passed, we're going to get a price pump. So yeah, I mean, I'm very excited for the next 3 months. I think it's going to be really revealing. Is the 4-year cycle finally over? Does news even bump up the price anymore? I remember when Michael Saylor first started announcing his smash buys. Opti and I would be able to craft entire shows off of that. The price would move just off of that. Now at this point, Michael Saylor buying, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin.
Billions.
The news cycle doesn't care about that anymore. The price doesn't even move, right? You could say the price at least doesn't go down when that happens. And even sometimes it still goes down. But I think that this type of news would be big enough where it would give confidence in the markets that Bitcoin is here to stay. This would stop a potential Operation Choke Point 3.0 from happening in 2030, right? This is the type of thing that would kind of stop that, because again, Trump's executive orders are only so good as long as he's in office. If you want something to stick around from a regulatory perspective, it has to go through and pass the legislative process. So again, Clarity Act, ladies and gentlemen, 69% of it passing. Opti, I want to get your thoughts, man, because you've been feeling very bearish on the Clarity Act. I was as well, because they kept delaying it, guys. They kept delaying it over and over and over and over again. But it seems like it's picked up some momentum again.
Yeah, a lot of momentum. And I have been very bearish about this actually passing because, like Nico said, it just constantly kept being delayed. But it does seem, at least based on all the information we have now, that actually yesterday they were saying we might get the markup in today. Now it's saying maybe the earliest that the markup will come in was Monday, which was the initial kind of timeline that we covered last week. And I do have to kind of make a joke, though, here, Nico. I swear when the Clarity Act passes, we're all expecting it to pump. I'm not going to be surprised if we see it dump on that day. That's just my gut feeling here. But you guys want to know something that is actually making me feel bullish about the Clarity Act? It has nothing to do with any of the timelines. This is more, live ship posting here. This is what does have me bullish on the Clarity Act. It is this post right here by Elizabeth Warren. You guys know I'm a huge fan of Elizabeth Warren here. Well, did you guys catch what she tweeted yesterday? So she is quote tweeting a headline from Bloomberg, and it goes, "Trump family crypto project quietly sold as holders got stuck." We've all been seeing the presidential rug pulls here. We've been talking about it since Trump coin, but this is what makes me bullish about the Clarity Act is that Elizabeth Warren is fighting it now. And you guys know she's been on hell bent on this anti-crypto march here. Here's the tweet we saw last night. She goes, the Trump family crypto project quietly cashed in while regular investors got stuck holding the bag. Elizabeth Warren, always out there for the little man. Gotta love it. And then it goes, any crypto legislation that doesn't shut down this presidential corruption and protect investors isn't worth the paper it's written on. Man, she's got a way with words. And actually, shouts out to some of my friends on Twitter. They're like, I miss BK Opti that was more anti-regulation. And I'm like, you're missing the joke. Like, you're completely missing the joke here. The fact that Elizabeth Warren is now throwing her hat in the ring against the Clarity Act getting pushed through, that actually makes me bullish about what is in there. Because, of course, you guys know or should know, she's a part of the Senate Banking Committee. So she supposedly is here to regulate the banks. And we were always wondering, you had a very stark contrast from your early Occupy Wall Street days to now basically shilling for the big banks. And as we've been covering throughout the Clarity Act whole saga, the big banks have actively been fighting it. And now Elizabeth Warren is out there on Twitter basically saying this act's going to be absolutely garbage because, I don't know, it doesn't protect the banks enough. No, it makes me bullish.
One of the things that I love about Bitcoin is that it exposes incentives, right?
100%.
It exposes incentives, So anyways, I do want to, I'll just have this kind of playing in the background. We're not the only ones to come up with this thesis. In their Q1 2026 update, Brian Armstrong, they had the CEO and co-founder of Coinbase, the chief financial officer, the president, COO, the chief legal officer, they're all in the call. And this is what they said, quote, hundreds of large companies will integrate. It will be the new internet. Coinbase just said Clarity is about to, quote, unlock a flood of institutional capital for Bitcoin and crypto. So again, this is the theory. This is the thesis, because again, if you're these large institutions and you're looking at it from a risk perspective, and you remember what Operation Choke Point 2.0 brought about, you kind of have this massive, you're like, listen, I'm sold on the Bitcoin thing. I do believe it's here to stay, but from a regulatory perspective, we don't really have a lot of clarity. No pun intended, right? What happens if there's a change in administration? What happens if there's a change in the political headwinds? What are we going to do, right? And this is
legislation comes out and gets
exactly what the Clarity Act is all about, right? So again, you're hearing it from Brian Armstrong, his team at Coinbase. They're saying it. Simply's not saying it. Quote, unlock a flood of institutional capital for Bitcoin and crypto. Hundreds of large companies will integrate. It will be, quote, the new internet. Here we go. So again, you heard it from them. You heard it from us. That was the theory. And I do align.
And Coinbase has been in those rooms, so
yeah,
it's got a lot more weight.
Coinbase has been moving this completely forward, so I completely agree with that 100%. Anyways, guys, we do have, again, Frank Holmes, executive chairman of HIVE Digital Technologies. He's going to be joining us in a little bit. We still have a lot to cover, but I want to continue this conversation regarding the Clarity Act, Opti, before we move on to the next segment. What's your take, brother?
I don't think anyone even knows what's in it. So I am a bit skeptical about what, it's going to do. And then I'm also on a very just fundamental mimetic view of this is the government usually, any bill they pass usually does the opposite. So I am kind of pessimistic about it. I feel like it's going to give us less clarity.
I think there's
we'll see.
Two ways to look at it. There's you look at it, and again, Bitcoin has evolved, guys. Bitcoin is now, essentially in the process of being integrated into Wall Street, right? Traditional finance is here, and it's here to stay, right? This type of legislation is extremely bullish for them. Right. From the retail perspective, you can see the hesitation because from the retail perspective, you know, when we started the show, for us, it's very simple. You buy Bitcoin, you earn Bitcoin, you mine Bitcoin, you put that Bitcoin into self-custody, number go up, you denominate your net worth in Bitcoin, life goes on. Do we need a law to do that?
No, right? But that's why I was. That's why you and I argued over the.
Does that change like the fundamental protocol of Bitcoin? No, right? So if you look at it from that angle, you know, yes, it's kind of like, okay, this doesn't matter. But if you have to look at it, and Opti, we are maturing, we are getting bigger.
Am I maturing?
We do have to cover. We do have to cover Bitcoin from, you know, the traditional finance perspective, and from the traditional finance perspective, again, it is very bullish, guys. We're going to be right back just after the break. We have a special guest joining us today. We have the executive chairman of HIVE Digital Technologies, Frank Holmes, aka Bulldog Holmes. We're going to be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you already know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high-performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEDigitalTech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. All right, everybody, a little bit of a change up. We are waiting for the one, the only CEO of HIVE Digital Technologies, president and CEO of HIVE Digital Technologies, Aydin Kilic. He's going to be joining us on the show momentarily. But before we do that, Opti, let's continue the discussion.
Well, I'm kind of glad we got this little. There he is. Wait, hold on.
The man, the myth.
Yep.
The legend.
Okay. Here we are.
We have Aydin joining us. Aydin, how you doing?
Hey guys, Sorry, I'm biohacking right now. I'm at a clinic getting some IVs and always hustling, baby.
I love it. I love it.
Here's all my supplements, my neurotropics. I've got a bunch of coenzyme Q10, zinc, phosphatidylcholine, N-acetylcysteine. Anyways, biohacking, baby.
I love it. I love it. Aydin, huge announcement coming out of Hive. I do want to talk about that today. Press release got released a little bit earlier today. Hive's Buzz starts building a digital superhighway for Eastern Canada's first sovereign AI factory. Aydin, if my memory serves me correctly, I think we talked a little bit about this at the Bitcoin conference.
Yeah, so this is just really part of our growth strategy in HPC this year. So we've really got two drivers in that HPC umbrella. So first of all, broadly, we've got the dual engine strategy, of course. Can't forget Bitcoin, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, on our HPC AI business, we've got the GPU cloud, and then we're going to be bringing online tier 3 capacity vis-a-vis through New Brunswick, and that's going to be where we can entertain co-location with enterprises and hyperscalers. So we'd love to get you out to New Brunswick one day, Nico, to check it out. It's a beautiful facility, 70 megawatt, what I would describe as a military grade Bitcoin mine. You know, when I joined Hive in 2021, it was actually to fly to New Brunswick to help Frank with diligence. And I did it on an advisory mandate. And it was peak pandemic COVID, and the site was like 10 megawatts built out, and we acquired it and completed the full 70. And the team that had built that joined Hive. And so we've been one big happy family ever since. But we've got our own substations, we've got our own dedicated transmission line, and we bought an additional 32 acres of land recently. And we announced that late last year. Until the next catalyst, you need land, power, and connectivity. So the big catalyst here and the big excitement is that we've been partnered with Bell Canada to advance our AI cloud, and they also are going to build the fiber to the New Brunswick site. So that's really exciting, and we're just going to have a lot of cool updates as we advance. Construction, design, and development has been well underway. So it's going good. We're really excited, and it's going to be, I think, on the East Coast, especially in the Maritimes, the largest site I'm aware of, and certainly for AI. So this is going to be I mean, this is the largest single site operating Bitcoin mine, I think, in Canada today. Hut 8 back when they had the Drumheller sites, I think they shut those down. And so, but when I'm talking about like proper data center in the Maritimes, I think this might be the largest. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this news comes after the news of you guys being able to raise $100 million on a 0% convertible note, which again, we haven't released this interview, but I love the interview I did with Aydin at the Bitcoin conference. I got to spend some time with him as well. Yeah, this is, that breaking news and then this breaking news. Are the two news connected? Is this part of the 100 million that you guys raised?
I think really the 100 million, when we were raising that capital, that was the catalyst to fund two very large GPU cluster deals that are each going to add upwards of 60 million ARR to our GPU cloud revenue. So we're at 35 million ARR contracted today. When we get one of these deals signed and announced, it'll bring us to 100 million ARR. And then when we get the second deal announced, it'll bring us to over 150 million ARR. And so, we've signed the MOUs and we're at the 5-yard line to get these formalized. And so a big part of it, the catalyst, that capital was to have the financing in place to put down payments on the GPU clusters, because we're working with blue chip lenders. We're finding the sweet spot. They're wanting a bit of a down payment. So if you're going to buy a $170 million GPU cluster, you're going to want to put 20, 30 million bucks down cash. And so now that we have that, so if you put $20 million down on each cluster, that's 40 million bucks. And so now we have that capital at zero coupon interest with a conversion premium and the capped call 125%. So if the stock rallies, which I really think we'll have a re-rating once we hit 100 million ARR. I think the stock will re-rate above $5. And I think once we exceed 150 million ARR, the stock is really going to consolidate and have a very strong bid above $5. And maybe we can do an early conversion on that capped call at a premium. And that would actually net us proceeds of 100 million cash if we were able to negotiate an early convert on that capped call, because the share price would be $4.92. And so the proceeds up to that amount from the original conversion price, I think, was $2.18. Those proceeds go to us. And so we're really excited about that. But we did talk about some of the proceeds going towards long lead hardware for our two sites. So there's the New Brunswick site and the site by the Toronto airport that we're going to be building out as well. And so that'll be a beautiful edge site. It's about 7 megawatts, really strong demand just because of its proximity. So yeah, it's nice vest. Yeah, so
I love it. This is special edition. Apparently it's hard to get these, so I'm very proud of my HIVE vest.
Yeah, of course you should be, because only the executives have those. So your extended family, Nico.
Woo! I love it. So Aydin, this is incredibly bullish. How many sites does HIVE have in total?
I mean, if we talk about Bitcoin mining sites, or if we talk about more specifically, I think what you're asking is sites that are currently active that can be converted to tier 3. So we have the Toronto airport site for 7 megawatts. We have New Brunswick, which is 70 megawatts. That site's 10 times bigger. We also have both of our sites in Sweden. What we call Big Boden is 32 megawatts, and Little Boden is 7 megawatts. And we're seeing a lot of demand for those sites as well. We've actually gone through the process of decommissioning the Little Boden site. Little Boden 7 megawatts, but we've had a design build firm go through all the drawings and permitting through late last year. And so that process is underway. And so that's in Canada. You have New Brunswick, which is 70 megawatts. You have the Toronto airport site, which is 7 megawatts. And then in Boden in Sweden, both our sites, Big Boden, Little Boden, 32 megawatts and 7 megawatts. And the thing is I do want to clarify how this HPC colocation game works. Is you're effectively selling, a powered shell, and you are the host, and you're hosting not for a miner. Like, remember, hosting was very prevalent in crypto mining, but you're hosting for an enterprise or a hyperscaler that wants to stand up their compute, and you're selling them rack space. So the numbers behind that, it's dollars per kilowatt per month. So for example, and when you look at a Cypher deal or a TeraWolf deal, like all the Wall Street guys are underwriting what is the term? Like, is it a 15-year or 10-year? And what is a dollar per kilowatt per month? And so I'll walk you through what that means. So for example, if you have a 70 megawatt site like New Brunswick, this might be helpful for your viewers to wrap their head around the economics of HPC colo. And then we could talk about the GPU cloud a little bit. But I do want to spend a little bit of time at the end of the interview just to kind of, Bitcoin's having a moment. We cracked 80K. So I just, I think it's good to remind people of the value of Bitcoin as the world's decentralized energy-backed currency. But let's get back to these economics really quick. And I hope this is helpful for the viewers. So $150 a kilowatt a month is indicative for our site in Boden, Sweden, for example. And so if you have a site that is 30 megawatts, for example, or in our case, 32 megawatts, when you're doing tier 3 data centers, you got to apply the PUE, power usage effectiveness ratio. What that means is not all the power at the site can be used for compute. In crypto mining, your PUE is almost 1 because you don't really have air conditioners or other periphery consumption of power. You just cram as many miners as possible. Maybe you have fans, or maybe it's passively cooled. It just uses the fans of the miners themselves. but you have to account for, all the chillers and all of the climate control in a tier 3 data center. So nominally use a PUE of 1.3. So for example, we can even use New Brunswick. 70 megawatts divided by 1.3 is like 53 megawatts. So you could just use a round number, say 50 megawatts. Well, 50 megawatts is 50,000 kilowatts, right? So New Brunswick's a secondary market, so it'd be $130 a kilowatt a month. So all you do is you just go, okay, well, that would be 50,000 times 130. You get 6.5 million a month times 12. Well, that'd be 78 million a year. It'd be a bit more than that because it's more than 50 megawatts. I think we get closer to 55. And then if you signed a 15-year contract, that's worth 1.1 billion, right? So, you see what I'm saying? So that's the play. And then
that was amazing.
Yeah, that math really quickly.
That was amazing. On the fly, wild biohacking.
Wild biohacking, baby. Yeah.
Wild biohacking. I love it.
Getting some NAD plus, glutathione, phosphatidylcholine, and I think I had sodium phenylbutyrate.
The NAD I'm familiar with, but doesn't it give you the pressure, like the chest pressure, a little bit?
No, shout out to Nick Hansen at Luxor. Actually, he got me onto Function Health. So it's 116 biomarkers, and I just got my test results back. My biological age is 31.8 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
So
I did a Function Health test recently. You're younger than me because mine came out to 32.
Really, bro? I'm 45.
And I'm 34.
All right.
Well, now I have ammo to make fun of Nico.
I gotta get out there, man. I gotta start listening to Opti.
Yeah. You're cooked now, bro.
Yeah. That's why I don't drink at the conferences anymore. You always see me. I'm just like, maybe if it was like the very last night was good in Vegas, but yeah, no, coming back on the economics of the game. Then you look at the AI cloud. And so with the GPUs, and so GPUs is how many GPUs are you renting? So for example, I'm going to give you like very nominal figures. Like say the new like Grace Blackwells that are out there, GB300s, it's more than 350, but it's like $3.50 an hour. And if you've got a cluster of like 2,000 GPUs, you're doing $7,000 an hour, but there's 24 hours in a day. So you're doing 168 grand a day. That's like 61 million a year, right? Wow. So remember I said how there's large GPU cluster deals we're working on, and each one can add 60 million ARR. That's it right there. I just walked you through it. You see what I'm saying? And then, but get this, that is 5 megawatts. That's what you're getting out of 5 megawatts, right? So there's two different things we're contemplating. We're contemplating on one hand, standing up the GPUs ourselves, putting them on our cloud and getting that very high profit density. But when you do a GPU cloud contract, you're maybe renting it for 3 years. So if you did a 3-year contract, that'll be worth 180 million. Or if you did, say a 5-year contract, that'd be worth 300 million. So that's kind of how the GPU cloud game is evaluated. But for me, because HIVE, has expertise in building and operating data centers, but also orchestrating compute. And so the thing is when you look at mining Ethereum, mining Bitcoin, we're the first public crypto miner to actually do GPU cloud, going back 3 years ago. And we started putting our NVIDIA A40s on the aggregators, on the platforms. How do you evaluate the different revenue streams? Dollar per kilowatt hour. That's the answer, right? So, Bitcoin mining economics could be 12 cents a kilowatt hour, 8 cents a kilowatt hour, depending on the efficiency of the machine. It's all physics, right? So joule per terahash in Bitcoin mining is energy related to compute. And then dollar per kilowatt hour is dollar per unit of energy. So you see it all ties back to energy, right? Joule per hash, dollar per kilowatt hour. So you can bridge it all. And so the fundamental is doing a dollar per kilowatt hour analysis. And so, for example, the HPC colo, it depends. Like, it's really easy, actually. I mean, if you're renting for $150 a kilowatt a month, well, guess what? There's 730 hours a month. So that's 20 cents a kilowatt hour. And you know what I'm saying? So, or if you did, like, I think Cypher did a deal at $101 a kilowatt a month. Was one.
Aydin, there's two things that are blowing my mind right now. Okay, first of all, it's the numbers, which are very impressive. The second part is the fact that you're doing this on the fly, off the top of your head, which is really, really fascinating to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an electrical engineer. Like, I like math, and the nurses keep coming here too. Like, what's this guy doing? But
he's just on a show with thousands of people watching. That's all.
Hey, what's up, everybody? And so at $101 a kilowatt a month, you just divide by 730 hours, so that'd be 13 cents a kilowatt hour. So you're not far off from Bitcoin mining revenues when you're doing colo. But here's why Wall Street loves colo, because it's stable. Because now you're signing a contract where it's that number. It's that 14 cents a kilowatt hour for 15 years, And what's the build out of that? Okay, it's 8 million a megawatt, 10 million a megawatt. Different CEOs will tell you different things. It doesn't matter. Every project's unique. Is it greenfield? Is it brownfield? How quick are you getting to market, et cetera? There's going to be different factors. It's like building a skyscraper. The cost will vary. But say it's in that range, 8 to 10 million a megawatt. Your ROI is going to be about 6 to 8 years. But that's okay, because Wall Street's okay with that. They like that you got long-term stable revenues. Here's the thing. Crypto mining, we always underwrite 1 year ROI, 1 to 1.5 year ROI after a 5-cent OPEX. We've realized that, we've hit 1.5 year ROIs, even 1 year ROIs on some of the batches of ASICs that we hit. But Bitcoin mining top line is volatile. And so Wall Street doesn't really, on a comparative basis, don't get me wrong, in a bull market, they love it. Like, everyone just forgets everything and they're like, yeah, to the moon. But when Bitcoin pulls back and people are like, oh, why don't we just, invest in these businesses that can stack up these long-term stable cash flows for 10, 15 years doing this colo business? And that's why you're seeing some of our peers really double down. Wolf, Cypher, Hut just really double down on the colo. And I think the idea, Morgan Stanley put out this report last September, where they were like, hey, the Bitcoin miners, they should just do a bunch of HPC colo. And then when you sign because convert all your data centers, each data center is a contract. So if you signed $1 billion contract there and over 15 years and a $5 billion contract there, what you end up doing, what's your annual net operating income? You can add that up across all your different sites. Now it looks like a REIT, a real estate investment trust. And those get crazy multiples like Digital Realty. So that's that thesis. But then the other thesis is what we are doing as well, right? We got 5,500 GPUs on our cloud now, doubling to 11,000 GPUs at the end of this year, which, by the way, will take us to 200 million ARR. We are the largest in Canada right now, and I think we'll continue to grow along that line. We also see Iron. They've really doubled down on the GPU cloud as well. And people are like, yeah, but you're getting better revenues or getting better multiples doing the colo. But then you can really zoom out and say, well, like, okay, but then what about CoreWeave and Nebius and Lambda? Like, if you kind of get venerated and you're at that scale as a GPU neo cloud, then I think the multiples are also super attractive. So I think it's just being, whatever you do, you got to be like really good at it, right? Like you can chase whatever emerging sector is there and chase this idea of trying to get good multiples. But for us, it's about execution. It's demonstrating value to shareholders. Always ROIC, always ROIC. That's why we're always hustling. That's why we're always, no days off, right? But
days off, literally, while you're biohacking, you're on the show doing math.
And so I actually brought my mom out here. That's the real reason I'm out here. I got her out here for 3 weeks, and it's a little Mother's Day gift. And I'm spending a week out here. But I think so that's on that front. But I think it would be kind of good to take a moment just to like reflect on you know, Bitcoin it's finding its way. You know, 1010 really took the wind out of a lot of people's sails, but you know, Bitcoin's starting to rally again. And I think, you know, I was talking with Frank earlier. Frank Holmes, of course, co-founder, executive chairman of HIVE, who I think, you know, you had just done a great interview with him in Vegas. There are so many countries that have debanked people or frozen currency. You know, like there was like in 2013, like, and Frank comes up with all this amazing research. Like Cyprus in 2013, you know, there was a bunch of deposits that were confiscated. Zimbabwe, you know, screwed the country through hyperinflation. Obviously, we all know about like Argentina, Venezuela. I'm half Turkish, but even Turkey, you know, has had massive inflation. And so I think really like, and look, even Trump, you know, prior to him becoming president in the prior administration, he was effectively debanked too. So I think that's what made him pro crypto.
Yeah.
So I just think it's good to remind people how, and look, even in Canada, when we had, when it was COVID and there was the Freedom Rally, whichever side of that debate you're on, all you could do is you could look back at the fact pattern, and the Canadian government did try to go freeze bank accounts of people that were supporting that movement. And what happened to freedom of speech then? So you can't go protest unless it's, you know, like a bunch of lefty nonsense. I'm more conservative, so whatever. But yeah, like I think that it really just shows how even a country like Canada, you know, can freeze bank accounts. So I just really think that ultimately, as the world's decentralized energy-backed currency, Bitcoin will continue to stand the test of time. I mean, 1010 was you know, brutal, and I think, but that's not Bitcoin's fault. That's Binance and that's hedge funds and you know, people manipulating. Actually, they were manipulating a stable coin. They were manipulating BSE, and that caused all that.
Could we do a deep dive into that, Aydin? Because it seems like you have more information. Like what, and Frank actually came on the show and he talked about it as well. What happened on October 10th to see this epic meltdown? Like what information do you have for the audience?
So on Binance, what happened was there's a stable coin called BSE, and it was only traded on Binance. And so what this hedge fund did was they like very quietly accumulated a bunch of it. It was a stable coin. And you know, people like leverage bets on crypto are huge. You can trade futures on Binance. You can do 3-to-1 leverage, 5-to-1 leverage. And when Binance was available in Canada, just, you know, war story, I would this was quite a few years ago. I think it was like 4 years ago, maybe 5. I was just like, oh, you're basically just playing the volatility, right? And so you set up these short-term trades over a few hours or days. And you know, if it hits the line, you win. But if it drops below your margin call number, then, you know, you get wiped out. And so what happened was, you have all these people playing these levered bets on Binance, and what's the collateral? Well, you got to have collateral on Binance. And so if you're using a coin like Bitcoin, and that's, you know, say Bitcoin drops, that's one thing. But if you're using another token, a stable coin, as collateral, well, what happens if the value of that stable coin drops? And so this BSC dropped to like 65 cents from $1 because this hedge fund dumped it. So if everyone's collateral fell suddenly to 65% of its face value, that's going to screw up everybody's open leverage positions. And so that's what caused all this auto deleveraging. And then to, you know, add fuel to the fire, there was a like the APIs were going down. So the market makers and Binance, like it was, you know, there was that issue too, really exacerbated things. And so the punchline is $19 billion of value got wiped out.
That's crazy.
It's the worst ever. Like there's been a few flash crashes. You know, there was a flash crash in the one, like when I had a Binance account way back when, and I lost like 15 grand going out to dinner. I was just like, I set a trade up, and Bitcoin was at 60,000, and it flash crashed to 49,800. It's like a needle. Like you have to like zoom in to see that on the chart. And like, it wasn't just me. Like I think $2 billion got wiped out that day.
Wow.
And so like for people, but it kind of makes the headlines, but it's kind of like, I feel like those are like boring headlines that people scroll past unless you're like a trader. And so, look up Bitcoin flash crashes.
There was one I saw at Kilic. Could you pull it up, Opti?
There was one last night on Revolut.
It literally flat.
It glitched. It
glitched to
I'll pull it up.
0.02 cents per Bitcoin. Not kidding. Yes, not kidding. I saw the headline. It's going to your.
Yeah, one sec. I'm pulling it up.
Opti's pulling it up right now. So yeah, those flash crashes are brutal. But like Aydin, they're manufactured, right? Like they do this on purpose.
Yeah, of course. Like I think you got whales and hedge funds out there that are looking at. Like I'm not a hedge fund guy. I'm not a trader, and so I can't really speak to that. But basically,
look at
that. They're engineered, and so basically, sorry, I'm just. Sorry, just a little bit of an interruption.
What was the price? What was the price? Look at that, Aydin. I have it pulled up on screen. On Revolt, the price of Bitcoin has dropped to 2 cents. Speaking of flash crashes,
crazy.
Yeah. Of course, it was a glitch, but I'm assuming anyone that had any type of trades, they got crushed.
Yeah. So basically. $19 billion of value was wiped out. And then Richard Tang was on stage in Hong Kong at Consensus. And he was like, we paid back $300 million to the people that mattered. And like, okay, what is that? Like, okay, cool. So you're taking account of what that tells me is they're taking accountability because obviously if they truly felt like they weren't accountable, then I don't think they would have paid the 300 million. And I guess it's admirable they paid the 300 million, but it doesn't change the fact that 19 billion of value was wiped. And so let's zoom out for a second. The point is that we've navigated that. And that was when Bitcoin was like 126,000, and then it toppled to like 100,000. And then I think there was just this hangover because it was something more that like the market makers and exchanges were aware of than the average Joe, obviously like Bitcoiners and people that are really in the industry. But I don't think retail really understood the impact and effect because it was kind of like a structural flaw in the system. Again, Bitcoin itself is secure. Like, by the way, I just did this. I didn't wear this shirt because I was doing this interview. Like I'm in this clinic biohacking. I just wear this shirt because it's HIVE and it's Bitcoin and I just rep it daily. Like Frank called me. He was like, Aydin, do you want to do the Simply Bitcoin interview? I said, I'd absolutely love to. And so this is just how I pulled up, man. I didn't put this shirt on like for the interview. So Bitcoin is very resilient. It's energy backed. Truly, I mean, look, I took a lot of physics and math courses. That's why I love Bitcoin, because you can understand it at such a deep level. And you've got broadly 30 gigawatts of power globally securing this decentralized network of compute that's worth, almost a couple $1 trillion. And so I think that it always seems to be the exchanges. And, it just always seems to be the exchanges that are the Achilles heel of the crypto industry. Going back to Mt. Gox, all the exploits are on the exchanges. It's the on-ramp, off-ramp. It's kind of like, like how often, oh shoot, guys, I got another meeting.
All good. Aydin, the one, the only, the legendary, coming in while biohacking, doing math on the fly. Aydin Kilic, ladies and gentlemen, CEO of HIVE Digital Technologies. Go check them out. They're traded on the NASDAQ and the Canadian exchange as well, the TSX exchange. I believe that's how you say it. So go check out the HIVE ticker. Aydin, thank you so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll biohack next time together, Nico.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Take it easy, Aydin. Thank you. All right, everybody. Well, Opti, was a great week, man. That was an epic, legendary interview of Aydin Kilic from CEO of HIVE Digital Technologies calling in from the clinic. That was awesome. I can't wait to drop the interviews.
The chat was super hyped on the biohacking that we were. The conversation was going. We were talking about supplements and stuff in the chat.
That was absolutely epic. So, anyways, guys, before we close out the show, maybe we should give away some Bitcoin. And then while I pull that up, Opti, could you pull up the Mining Disrupt website? So yeah, it's Friday. Let's give away some Bitcoin. Friends over at Bitcoin Well, definitely don't want to miss it, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Waiting for the email. Here it is. Oh, we got to put some soundboards or something while I'm doing this. Here we go.
Dude, you're just a boomer over here, bro. This guy can't internet.
Okay, bro. Okay. All right. So I do want to give a shout out to, of course, our lead sponsor, Bitcoin Well, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Guys, every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn something called Bitcoin Well points, and you could redeem those points in many different ways. You can get a Well stamp seed. You can get a Bitcoin nutrition hoodie, a BitAxe solo miner, a leather mint wallet, an orange Cybertruck. That's right. Adam O'Brien will personally deliver it to your house. Or you could toss a coin into the Bitcoin wishing well. And every single time you toss a coin into the wishing well, you earn, or you have the opportunity to win some sats. So get your Lightning wallets ready to scan it on screen. I'm going to just leave it up for just a little bit. And here we go. Tossing a coin into the wishing well. Get your Lightning wallets ready, ladies and gentlemen, and scan the QR code. First person to scan this QR code has won 210 sats. That is today's prize.
Do another one.
So
we haven't done them in a while.
We're doing it twice?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. All right, let's do that. Here we go.
Maybe we'll get the million set today and I'll steal it.
All right. Get your Lightning wallets ready, ladies and gentlemen. We're tossing a coin into the wishing well. And, there you go. 500 sats.
There you go.
So, guys, scan this QR code. If you're watching it at home, first person to scan it is the one who's going to get the sats. Also, I do want to, Opti has it pulled up. I do want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, Mining Disrupt. Guys, this is going to be the largest Bitcoin conference of the year. You definitely don't want to miss it. It's July 21st through the 23rd in Miami, Florida. Again, Mining Disrupt, July 21st through the 23rd, 2026, Miami, Florida. You definitely don't want to miss it. Get your tickets now. You could use the link in the video/podcast description to get, I think it's 20% off your tickets to the largest Bitcoin conference of the year, Mining Disrupt 2026, July 21st through the 23rd in Miami, Florida. We hope to see you guys there. Anyways, that was the week. Another week under the belt for Simply Bitcoin Live. If you guys like the show, smash the like button, consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care of everybody. Have an amazing weekend. We'll see you on Monday.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.